Are you 18 and you don't want to make mistakes and you want to succeed in life? Here are three great tips to use that you can start today to change the course of your life forever, guys. Let's get right on into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you again for tuning in. Today I'm going to go over 3 lessons that I wish somebody had taught me at the age of 18 so that I could have done even better in my life. Now these lessons are stuff that I know now that I wish I knew back then because it would have really saved me a lot of money. So these are important, guys, and let's get right on into it. I don't like to waste time, and the first thing we're going to talk about is avoiding fees. Now, everybody doesn't like fees. You don't like fees when you're paying for stuff. You don't like fees when you miss paying for stuff. It's not a good look. But fees for investments are the worst type of fees. I'm going to explain to you why. Do you know if you had $10,000 today and you started investing at the age of 18, and let's just say you grew that amount by 10,000 every single year up for 30 years, you'd assume you have a lot of money, right? At a $1.8 million actually. So a lot of money. You would have a great retirement in that case, and guess what? You'd barely be over 48. However, there is a big problem that nobody talks about, and that is fees. So let's just say you gave your money to the bank and the bank was going to invest on your behalf, and they only charged you 1% fee. All right. And it's way common for a lot of people to charge you more than a 1% fee. But let's just say there's a 1% fee. Do you know how much money you would lose instead of having $1.8 million? You'd be left with $1.4 million after 30 years. How on earth is that even possible? You might be wondering. But let me explain it to you. 1% fee in 1 year does not seem like a lot. If you only have $100, it's $1. So that is nothing. However, remember, it is going to compound with you, which means you grew that amount by 10,000. And guess how much 1% of 10,000 is? Do you guys know? It's $100, right? So that means it's $100 right there. But if you do another 1,000, it's growing by another 100. And when you get to $1 million, 1% of that $1 million is how much? $10,000. That means you are giving the bank a free $10,000 just to manage your money. And most of the time, these are automatic investments. So this is free money for your bank. But one thing you have to remember, guys, is there are a lot of ways to avoid fees, like having anything like a VO or SPY, the same investments I tell you to invest in instead of your bank, they offer you 0.03. So from a difference of 1%, 0.03 is very nice because when I have $1 million, I don't want somebody to be taking 10,000. And they didn't just take it then. They took it when it was 900,000. And now that investment instead of 10,000 was $9,000. And they were taking all that money every single year. So it adds up a lot. And you lose 400,000 over 30 years. Now imagine over 60 years. Imagine over 50 years. Imagine if you were putting $100,000 in. It eats your money. Why on earth would you want to give $400,000 in fees? It doesn't make sense, guys. So please keep that in mind when you guys start investing. Buy low ticket ETFs. They make money. They keep the money in your pocket and you don't have to worry about it. And I gave a lot of fees to banks to manage my funds. I started with IA Financial. And again, they're great. They gave me a great return. However, their fees were drastic, almost 3%. And I didn't realize that for years. Obviously, at that moment in time, I didn't have a crazy ton of money in it, but I still had almost $100,000. So they were taking a good amount of money. When I switched over to my next bank, they explained to me how their fees were only 1%. When I started learning this on my own, I realized, why do 1% when you can do 0.03? And now I have options with other banks that give me great percentages at a great valuation. However, I still do both. I have my investments with my banks, keeps them happy, keeps them giving me great offers. And then I also have my personal investments because I like to make sure that I am not going to get scammed out of my money. For the next return, the best return you could ever have in your entire life, it's going to sound funny because everybody says it's or said this already, but the best return is in you. Now, don't click away, guys. The best return is in you because you have the ability to create the money, all right? If you learn any skill that can get you a lot of money, you can extremely change the circumstances that you're living in. For example, if you learn coding and coding is in high demand, you might be able to jump from a $60,000 paying job to $120,000. Or you might be able to create another side business, or you might be able to learn how to invest better. You might learn about dividends. You might learn how to do this. But all of that is learning, and all you can do is learn. So guys, there are so many free tools like YouTube, and then there are great books like Intelligent Investor where you can learn all of these great skills at a fraction of the price. Like even course stuff from Google, not sponsored by them at all, but that's something I used to learn SEO marketing, and it helped a tremendous amount. I wasn't planning on getting a job. I just wanted to learn better so that I could scale my e-commerce websites and my other businesses at a better rate. And I also wanted to go into meetings with marketing companies actually knowing what they're talking about. I wanted to know how SEO works, how you actually market so that you trend better, how you use links and keywords. And a lot of time, you will not know any of this stuff until you learn it. So it is on you to learn it. And once you do learn it, you're able to become a force to be reckoned with. Because if you know everything, even if you don't know everything down to the grit, but you know enough about it to have a conversation with somebody, it opens up doors for you. It allows you to choose who's a good employee versus a bad employee. And so that is what you have to do, guys. So if you're at 18, the number one thing you should be doing is learning. And the mistake I made was my educational journey stopped after I was 12. I still went to school. I just learned absolutely nothing. I cannot tell you what I did for high school. And it wasn't because I was skipping school or doing weird stuff. All I was doing in high school was working out. And that was the extent. I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder. And that's all I was doing. I was just training because that's what I love to do. And it wasn't until after high school when I started learning about finance, and this is where finances saved my life. Because I started learning about finances, it made me so curious on learning. And I started reading books. And then I realized books were truly something extraordinary to read. And I was listening to audiobooks because I have dyslexia. And again, that was another reason why I didn't perform in school. But because I learned different ways to study, I learned more. I learned I could learn everything off YouTube. I jumped from this to this, and eventually I was able to create my own business. So I was able to do all of that because I invested in myself and was able to learn. So guys, take courses, but don't pay for the courses. Take courses for free. Learn anything you can, because nobody has ever going to ask you what your degree is, but everybody will be able to know who is BSing and who is telling the truth. Now, guys, this last lesson is another lesson that you've probably heard before, and it is very true. All right, that is that money takes time to grow. Money does not come fast. Money comes very slow, especially wealth. Wealth comes extremely slow. However, if you invest properly, you can make that a lot faster. Just for example, like I was mentioning, the S&P 500, if you invest from the age of 18 to 65 and only invest $10 a month, that's still $150,000. All right. But if you start investing at 30, when you're 30 years old, it will only be 40,000 in the same time period. Compounding grows. Now, you don't have to have that as your plan A, because I know you don't want to retire when you're 65. I know you probably want to retire when you're 30 or 40. However, to be realistic, to be smart, and to give yourself the best chance of winning, why would you not invest in the S&P 500 as a backup plan? And at the end of the day, if you make so much money by the time you're 60, that money doesn't even matter. The compounding money is just extra money on the top that you can either donate or, again, use it for whatever fun activity you want, or buy a Ferrari if you want. But what you need to do is you need to take these tips. You need to start compounding at the age of 18, because it puts you in forward for so much motion. And if you're able to create businesses or create great skills that by the age of 30 to 40 you're already wealthy, then it's just icing on the top. But money will take time. I know everybody's probably going to be waiting for the next, which one is the next GameStop meme going to 400? What's going to go to 1,000? What's going to go to 1,000,000? They're always going to be wondering that. The reason why people stay wondering is because they don't take initiative to grow. Getting rich once is not hard, but it is luck, but it's not hard. And once it happens, you're most likely going to lose the money because you don't have a repeatable skill that makes you money. I want to know that I have the repeatable skills that if I lost all of it today, I could grow it back in half the time. And I truly do believe I have made it to that position in my life. Now, guys, take these tips. I'm only 25 years old. And honestly, that is pretty old, to be honest. I'm starting to feel it, But if I'm 25 and I'm telling you that these tips are really important, just 7 years ago, these tips would have changed and it created even more wealth for me today. I would have told you that every single dollar that I made, I would have invested into S&P 500 to see the growth on there. But I didn't. I started at 100, which I actually don't think is the wrong way to do, as long as you're investing. But if I could go back to myself, I would say invest more in yourself, read more books, learn from more people, learn harder in school, and then take money and then listen that money's going to take a while to grow there, so don't expect any immediate results. I took those, I applied those skills, and even if I didn't get to the exact amount like I'm telling you guys today, I have done fantastic in my life. So guys, hope you guys took something from that. Hope you guys will subscribe, and we'll see you again. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Bye-bye.